Today on Light of the Word with Pastor Ray.
You know what I find in years of ministry, walking with the Lord? When people are determined to not follow and sacrifice and endure hard times of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that God that we know, they will go and choose, this is the way I'm going to go. And they will always find a Hira to come and give them a word. This is the way to go. It can even happen in the church.
Open your heart to us, Lord, so we can know your word. We come before you, Jesus. Speak to our hearts as we discover your love for us. How wide, how deep, how far. Pour into us so we can learn to follow. One surrender at a time. You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and bright. By the light of the word.
Who do you turn to for advice when you have already decided exactly what you want to do? You might seek out a person who will agree with your choices rather than someone who tells you the difficult truth. Today, Pastor Ray describes how it's a dangerous thing to look for a voice that only confirms your own desires when you are avoiding sacrifice. Choosing comfort over commitment can result in a life that misses out on the true beauty of becoming exactly who the Lord wants you to be. Well, let's join Pastor Ray in the book of Genesis, chapter 38, for today's edition of Light of the Word.
Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord killed him. And Judah said to Onan, go in to your brother's wife and marry her, and raise up an heir to your brother. So we're going to see this. It's called the Levirate law. We're going to read, it's an interesting study, but we have these oral laws, and then when we get into the Mosaic and Levitical laws in Exodus and Leviticus, the Mosaic and Levitical laws, we're going to see them become codified, written, and said these are our national laws. And here in Genesis, you'll find a correlation of like 34 of these laws that would be written in Mosaic and Levitical law, written here through Genesis, and this is one of them. It'll be part of, there's a place that the family seed must continue on. And if a brother dies before child's birth, it was the responsibility of one of the brothers to raise up a seed in that wife so that the name continues on. And there's just something you can see that the Lord does, because the name Israel, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the nation of Israel must exist, and God's putting it into these 12 boys to carry this thing on. And so this would be the responsibility of the second brother, Onan, to do this. But what was Er's sin? We don't know. Could be what Onan's sin is that we're going to read here next in verse 9 and 10, maybe. But what was his sin? It was wicked enough that God would kill him. Think about that. Glad I'm not in the family lineage. But I'll tell you this, knew. He knew. Because that's how God works with us. That's how he works with his people. And what I see here is so fitting is it wasn't publicly known. We don't know. But I think God sends a message. Your sin will find you out. Whether it's made public or not, you do well not to wait till it's public, but your sin will find you out. I'm giving you an opportunity to repent of it. And whatever it was, did not repent, and God dealt with him, but he knew, because that's the graciousness of God. He would have said over and over, you're going to stop this. And so verse 9 and 10, as this story continues on, but Onan knew that the heir would not be his, meaning when this child is born, he has to pay to raise him, but the child will not be his. And so when the family inheritances are divided, his actual children will get less because the inheritance going to Tamar. And it came to pass when he went into his brother's wife that he admitted on the ground lest he should give an heir to his brother. Verse 10, and the thing which he did displeased the Lord, therefore he killed him also. We're adults, so thankfully I don't have to say anything more. It's an odd place to teach these things, but God chose to put this in of 50 chapters. He gives a whole chapter to this. He's making it very clear of this passage. And again, we're going to have this tremendous comparison between a Judah and a Joseph, a diamond and the black drop and these type of things. But here's what we see here with, and you don't see it in the English jump off, but the Hebrew jumps off. It's a repeated verb tense. He did this repeatedly. So he's using her for his own satisfaction, but he has no desire at all that he is going to satisfy what her need is, and her desire is to be this mother and to have this child. And so he uses her. I think he's kind of watching his father. This is how dad uses. He doesn't care. He goes down and fulfills his lust. We're going to see this is Judah's life, this impulsiveness and the flesh. The kids are watching the parent, and here was his action. Well, verse 11 says that then Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow in your father's house till my son Shelah is grown. For he said, lest he also die like his brother. And Tamar went down and dwelt in her father's house. He has no interest that he's going to give his youngest son. For some reason, I think it's part of following the Canaanite culture. He's not following the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. He's following the gods of this culture, that somehow it's like there's a repercussion or whatever. There's something wrong with her. And therefore, because there's something wrong with her, that's why my two sons die. Because when they come to know her, they end up dying. Whatever his justification is, this is how he comes. I'm not going to give my youngest son. We're going to read as we continue on. He's not going to ever consider that he's going to give his youngest son to her. But I find it ever so interesting in that Tamar is going to wait. She's going to put on her widow's clothes. She's actually going to wait. Here's a woman who was raised in the Canaanite culture of immorality. She marries this man. And yet somehow along the way, she finds herself wanting to fulfill the word, the law, the means of this family, to fulfill Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to further the name of this son. She could easily just went back, joined her girlfriends in Canaan, and went back, if you would, to the party life or whatever the culture is. She puts on these widow clothes, and she remains faithful to that calling. So we read a chapter of a woman that I think we immediately go, wow, she's going to put on harlot clothes. This girl's messed up. But I don't want to miss, there was something about her that had some type of honor to her that drew her to, I hear the stories of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that was greater than this Canaanite culture. But she will do what the patriarchs did. She's going to take things into her own hands. And verse 12 will go on as we read while she waits. Now, in the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. And Judah was comforted and went up to his sheep shears at Timnah. Remember that? We'll get there someday with Samson. He and his friend, here he is. Now he's back with his dazzling friend, Hira the Adullamite. So his wife dies. And notice what he does when hard times come. He goes back to the way of the world. He goes back to, I could have went to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and said, here I am, my heart's broken. I lost my wife. But instead, he joins his friend Hira, back to the world they go, and we'll read through this whole story as they go, but he joins himself back to this friend. We're going to see him now in the next verses join with what he thinks is a harlot. You know what I find in years of ministry, walking with the Lord? When people are determined to not follow and sacrifice and endure hard times of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that God that we know, they will go and choose, this is the way I'm going to go. And they will always find a Hira to come and give them a word. This is the way to go. It can even happen in the church. I'm bent on doing my thing, and I will find somebody, no matter how many people I got to go through, until I find that somebody who agrees with me of what I'm doing, even if it's wrong. Or they won't say anything. I'll just listen. I won't judge you. And here we see, instead of going to the brothers, instead of going to his father, he goes to this guy of the world who dazzles. And this guy of the world is going to go, I got an idea for you. Let's go up and have the party at the sheep shears. And that's what we're going to read next. But I just say, be careful about the people who come in agreement with you, because they'll never break your conscience of guilt that God's trying to say, don't do this. What you're doing is wrong. Don't do this. Instead, they help soothe it, and then they help and harden it. And this man keeps going in this route. But I want us to see this as we think about this, because this can be us, or maybe it's you, and you say, man, you have no idea how painful this is. When Tamar lost her husband, then the brother, and now she's waiting in the widow place, wearing the widow's garment. That must have hurt. And here she is, she's all alone. Here she is, waiting in her father's house, being faithful, being withholding celibate, lonely, waiting. Judah has no empathy or compassion for her. You go home, I'll send my son later. He does not see any pain in her. He has no empathy. Wow, you just lost your husband. But I tell you what, he loses his wife. We just read, what's he want? I want comforted. I need comforting. Because, man, you don't know how bad this hurt. That was my wife. And so he's coming to his friend. We're reading, I want comfort because, man, this is painful. And he wants people to look upon him with empathy and compassion. But this man had no empathy and compassion for this young girl, Tamar, and what she was going through. And if that's you, and you're like, no one knows what I'm going through, God knows. He sees you. And may he minister to you. But I also just go with this place. You know, when somebody goes through a heartache and a hardship, may we slow down long enough to just go, Lord, would you tell me what's going on in their heart? What kind of pain are they having? And then if you've been the one that's gone through the pain, you've now been put in the place of, you know what? I've been where you're at and I know this pain. And let me come and tell you about, I know where you're at. I'll just sit and listen. And I'll say, I know that pain. Oh, the pain, that hurt. But here's Tamar. She's cast out. She gets no empathy. She gets no compassion. He's going to come. He's going to take care of himself, thinking of himself, because he's in this spiral progression of Psalm 1. He's hanging out with the wrong guy. Now they're going to have this party time, verse 13 and 15, because it's a sheep shearing time. And it was told Tamar, saying, look, your father-in-law is going to Timnah to shear his sheep. So she took off her widow garment, covered herself. So here she is. She's been wearing this the whole time with a veil, and wrapped herself and sat in the open place, which was on the way to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given to him as wife. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a harlot, because she had covered her face. She's dressing as a harlot. This was common we studied that, the high places, temple prostitutes. That was part of the Canaanite religious culture. This is why Abraham, Isaac, Jacob don't marry these women from this culture. And so she's dressed like a prostitute, and this is who he thinks she is, and this is who he approaches. And so they start this conversation. Then he turned to her, verse 16, by the way, and says, "Please let me come in to you," for he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. So she said, "What will you give me that you may come to me?" And he said, "I will send a young goat from the flock." So she said, "Will you give me a pledge till you send it?" "I don't trust you, obviously, because here you are." Then verse 18, he said, "What pledge shall I give you?" Here's a man who is desperate. He lets her set the terms. And she says, "Your signet and cord," maybe your translation reads bracelet, "and your staff that is in your hand." And then he gave them to her and went into her, and she conceived by him. So here he is. He heads to the world for comfort, rather impulsive at this moment. But it's interesting to me when I look at this, and we see when these things of the world and how the devil works in the things of the world. The signet was, he's a businessman, he's making a deal. And the signet ring was, here's a parchment of the deal, put the wax down, I put my signet ring. Everybody goes, "Oh, that's Judah's. That's Judah." Everybody knows his, from doing business, this is Judah. And then he has these bracelets, and that's not common for the bracelet to be worn. It was a sign that he had some wealth. And so he was definitely flaunting some wealth of his possessions. And then his staff was the position that he had. "I'm a shepherd. This is my staff. This is what I do for a livelihood. And people know me by what I am and what I do. And I do it very well, obviously, because of the prosperity that they have." And so we see this signet, we see the bracelet, we see the staff, and they represent the person, the possessions, and the position. And she says, "I want it all." And anytime Satan wants to take you down, take you into a place, I want it all. I want it all. I want to destroy. John 10:10, I've come to steal, kill, and destroy. I want it all. I want to destroy your person of what you're known for and your position that you may have among the church or in the community. And I want to take your possessions and leave you bankrupt and all these type of things. And Satan leaves nothing. And it's a beautiful comparison as we'll keep reading through this. The diamond of Joseph, he can withstand the moment. And I think this Potiphar story that's coming, it wasn't a one-day thing. It was day after day after day after day. And this young man, single, could withstand her day after day after day after day. And here comes Judah. He can't even stand a day. And down he goes. And we're seeing a young man able to stand. And we see a man who's mature falling and bringing this shame. This will be his legacy forever. And verse 19 and 20, he brings the others to watch the horrible witness. So she arose and went away and laid aside her veil and put on her garments of her widowhood. She's back to being the widow again. And Judah sent the young goat by the hand of his friend, the Adullamite, this is Hira, to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he did not find her. So here he is. "Hey, Hira, I need you to do me a favor. It's a little embarrassing what I did, but you're my friend. Hey, would you go and pay this debt for me and get my stuff back, and just keep it under, keep it kind of low key and these type of things." Of course, he's like, "Sure. That's what we do around here. We lie, we cheat, we steal, we do whatever it takes because that's what we are." And here he is. Judah could have been from the beginning given this witness of there's a God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And he has a promise upon my family, and he's going to do this great work. Hira, you could be part of this by coming and following after the God that has blessed us and never failed us. Instead, here he goes, "Hey, I need you to do me a favor to cover my sin, to cover my failing." What a horrible witness. And here he is, a man who is perishing, and this is the witness that he gives them. And of course, that's a word for all of us of what is the witness, not just for my family, but the witness of the world for my actions. Verse 21 through 23, then he asked the men of that place, saying, "Where is the harlot who was openly by the roadside?" And they said, "There was no harlot in this place." So he returned to Judah and said, "I cannot find her." Also, the men of the place said, "There was no harlot. There's no regular harlot in this place." Then Judah said, "Let her take them for herself, lest we be ashamed, for I sent the young goat, and you have not found her." So here it is. His life, his legacy has been established. The time to change that was before. Now this is his legacy that we read of him in verse 24. "And it came to pass about 3 months after that, Judah was told, saying, Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has a baby bump, has played the harlot. Furthermore, she is with child by harlotry. So Judah said, bring her out and let her be burned. Isn't it amazing how sin looks in somebody else? Our very sin in somebody else. Burn them. That was, even in the Canaanite culture, there was immorality. There was the temple high places and that immorality, but between husband and wife, it was frowned upon. And we read that even down into Egypt as, hey, if you don't say you're my sister, they're going to kill me because, you're my sister. And if you're my wife, they'll kill me. And so here we see this. One of the historical writings that I read was that they would take the harlot, those who were harlotry and adultery, and dig a pit, put them in the pit, and then cover them with some tar and light them and burn them. So here is Judah, light her up, burn her. I can't believe she did such a thing. And it's amazing how we can look and just go, that's her sin's the same sin as mine, but man, mine's justified. I have a reason for mine, and we can always justify ours. But when we look at it in someone else's, there is no justification there. Let's light them up. And so, verse 25 and 26, when she was brought out, she sent to her father-in-law saying, that means if you can picture the scene, the town has rallied. They're outside the father's tent or house, whatever it may be. Bring her out. We're going to burn her. And then she says, hey, before you do this, by the man whom these belong, the signet ring, the bracelet, the staff, I am with child. And she said, please determine who these are, the signet, the cord, and the staff. So Judah acknowledged them. Imagine how humiliating this is. The whole town's here now. They're all fired up to light the fire. They're going to bring some self-righteous judgment. And he has to step up in verse 26 and say, so Judah acknowledged to them, she has been more righteous than I, because I did not give her to Shelah, my son. And he never knew her again. Humbling. Verse 27 through 30. What an amazing story. Now it came to pass, verse 27, at the time for giving birth, that behold, twins were in her womb. And so it was that when she was giving birth, that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took scarlet thread and bound it on his hand, saying, this one came out first. Then it happened, verse 29, as he drew back his hand, that his brother came out unexpectedly and said, how did you break through this breach upon you? Therein, his name was called Perez. Afterward, his brother came out who had the scarlet thread on his hand, and his name was called Zerah. We would end this story and go, what a mess. Well, let me say this. As we look at these boys from Genesis 37, what a dysfunctional, messed up family. We look at this chapter, what a messed up life this girl Tamar had to live. But would you know the promises of God that he's just never done, no matter what it looks like?
You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and right.
Today's edition of Light Up the Word has been in Genesis. Have you noticed the recurring themes mentioned in this opening book of the Bible? Pastor Ray is walking us through each situation and event, but what about the fact that it often seems like there are two brothers who are at odds? One is looked on favorably by God, and the other doesn't feel like he has God's blessing, so he takes matters into his own hands. This occurs with Cain and Abel, Jacob and Esau, Joseph and his brothers. There's something about the sin nature that seeks to gain acclaim one way or another. But if it's not what God has in mind, it leads to all kinds of heartache and destruction. So what's the lesson that we could learn from these stories that seem to repeat? God has His ways and reasons for doing what He does. But we could rest in the fact that perhaps what God's communicating is that it's not the firstborn lineage that matters, but it's that spiritual birth that comes later, through knowing Him, that really matters. That is what God can bless, and He desires to see your heart for Him grow and flourish. If that concept causes you to pause and think for a little bit, that's okay. While you're doing that, head over to lightoftheword.info. There you'll find lots of resources. This has been Light of the Word, illuminating the heart of God.
You have made